Thank you for joining the Clarity and Purpose Show, where cause-driven business leaders share what you need to know to align your purpose and your team. They'll drop wisdom and knowledge about why they lead, what challenges they face, and how they remove the barriers that keep them from growing. Our guest today provides engaging and memorable programs, both in person and virtually, that inspire better team collaboration, trust, and accountability. As a successful coach and educator for over 20 years, he's gained valuable insights into how to develop winning teams and founded Great Results Team Building to share those lessons with smart team leaders. Our guest today is truly seeking better teamwork in the workplace. Help me and welcome our guest today, Sean Glaze. Sean, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks so much, James. Looking forward to sharing some valuable content with your audience.
And I know you will. When I first looked up your website, I fell in love with your purpose and what you're doing because it's one of my personal passions. Don't want to get weird. I know we just met, but Sean, let's just jump right in. Like, what is your big why? Why do you do what you do?
I do what I do because I did not have anybody to help me when I was younger to learn through some of the pain that I had to experience. And I think we all find a way when we get older to maybe look back and find a way to hopefully help some people through the struggles and challenges we had. And the greatest challenge I had as a young team leader, and I actually coached high school basketball for 2 decades. And it was in that respect and context that I learned to lead teams. But the greatest issue I had was the neglect of culture. Spent all kinds of time on strategy and skills and X's and O, like many leaders do. And that neglect of culture sabotaged any of the strategy that we had worked toward. And so as I got a little bit more wise and a little bit more experienced and focused more on culture and connections and all that went with that, it was amazing to see the change in our teams. And what's been even more tremendous is to be able to see how those same lessons translate across industry lines so that leaders of any teams can take advantage of the same stuff.
Wow. So you're in all size businesses, right? What's the normal size business that you work with?
That is a fantastic question, simply because it really has been, just a spectrum. I started off working with athletic groups in college and university programs, and then I started working with schools because that was my background as a high school teacher and basketball coach. And then I realized, hey, this stuff, teams are teams, and it's not basketball, it's business as well. And the same issues that I saw in our program and our culture in a locker room were the issues that I was seeing on LinkedIn and in Twitter and in conversations with leaders in conference rooms and sales rooms, regardless of industry. So whether it's medical or whether it's been banking or construction or there's been really just a great opportunity to share with a number of industries. And I've worked with teams as small as 8 or 10, and I've worked with groups as large as 400 or 500 in terms of giving them an opportunity to experience something that changes their awareness, that changes their beliefs, that changes their behaviors. And that's the difference in the culture. That's
good. And I think a lot of people would probably say that they want to build teams if they're wanting to have a successful business and grow their business. But what are things that you see that gets in the way of those things really happening?
Oh, we got a lot on our to-do list, man. We got too much to do to worry about this culture stuff. And that was absolutely my mindset as a young coach is, you take over a program that struggled and there's a reason that they struggled. So you got to build skills and you got to make sure you're putting in plays and defenses and all the 1,000 things that are part of the technical side. And then you realize that much like in business, people are hired for and focused on the technical side, and they don't realize how vital the interpersonal side is to making the technical possible. And so once that light came on for me, once I really committed myself as a leader to focusing upon that side of building a team, really our success took off. And at every stop, after I kind of made that first discovery and then kind of made very similar mistakes and got proud of myself, you had to relearn some of the same things. And I think that leaders across industries are largely the same way. Like you said, we certainly have ambitions and goals, and we have that desire to build a high-performing, more profitable team. but not everybody understands what are those hows. And the great thing about having been a coach, for good or bad, I guess, is where a lot of leaders will have one team that they work with for years. I had a team a year for 2 decades. Mm-hmm. And so to be able to unfortunately fail early and have some of those kids and athletes struggle through my learning, and then later on have some of the later teams benefit from some of those lessons that I'm now able to share with teams and leaders, was really something that I've appreciated the chance to give back.
Yeah. So knowing your experience in past, is there a story that you can share or be willing to share that connects that distinction from going, okay, it's not about the skill right now and what needs to be accomplished for the team. It's about what's going on in so-and-so's life or something personal.
Absolutely. And there's a longer version that I'll share in the midst of a conference keynote or message if I'm talking with a group. But the Reader's Digest version for summary is, it was the very first head coaching job that I had, coaching girls basketball. And it's the end of the year, and I'd taken over a team that only won a couple of games the year before, but I'd gone in because I'd had some success coaching JV, and I'm full of energy and enthusiasm and expectations, and I'm a good coach, and we're going to make a difference. And we go in, and we're at the end of the year, and we've won 5 games. We had lost 20. And I was dejected and down, and we're coming off the court after the region playoff game that we lost, which was our 21st loss, and the kids are walking through the hallway down towards the locker room, and their chins in their chest, and you got the size. And I remember going into the locker room, and you give them the post-game speech, and I'm excited for our future, and we got everybody back, and we made some progress, and I meant every word. But the message was flat even then because I was down too. And the issue was I didn't know what to do differently. I'd poured everything I knew into the skills and the strategy to make us as good as we could that first season. I'd used every bullet in the gun that I had. And so it was that next summer that we really invested as a staff, myself and my assistant, in trying to put together and to learn and to collect as much information as we could. Because I remember in that locker room, James, that after the talk, as the kids get up to leave, they were leaving one by one. And there's one player, and there's one player, and there's one player. And even at the end of the difficult season, we weren't connected. And I realized that they weren't walking out as individuals because we had lost that game. Mm. We lost that game and 20 others because all season long, I'd allowed the entire program to just be individuals.
Mm. There's a show. Sorry, while you're saying this, there's a show that came out this year on Disney Plus.
One of my favorites, Ted Lasso.
Big Shot.
Now you may be talking about another one, but if I can encourage anyone to watch, and I'm not normally somebody that gives
recommendations. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Yep.
But if you're familiar with Ted Lasso, and I think it's a Disney Plus, they've got season 2 coming out, but it is such a positive, optimistic, believe and focus upon the individuals and the personalities and the people behind the team. I thought that was just such a pleasant and refreshing and really entertaining and funny show that leaders across any industry are really going to benefit from.
Yeah, I've got that one in the queue. That's good. I haven't seen that one yet. There was one that came out. It's called Big Shot, and it is specifically about coaching a girls basketball team. Okay, and what's neat about what your story connects to, this whole show, literally the whole season, it's about him being so good at what he does and the technical side of getting any team to state or wherever they need to be. That by the end of the show, he realizes it's all about the people and the girls on the team, and that's what keeps him at a place to be humbled. And it was really neat. So
I will absolutely take a peek at that. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I figured that was a great connection because, man, that just made me think about that show we just finished. But so what I love about this too, because it gets me excited. Like I like to say that I'm different than some, where I spend a lot of time trying to find ways to connect our team. And try to build. When we say team building, it's like, what are ways that we can stay connected and love working with each other and doing that. But even with me spending energy on doing that, there's still a bottom line, and there's still still things that we've got to accomplish for the business to move forward. And I know that I get in the way of that sometimes. What are some things that you've seen on top of what we've talked about that, business owners and leaders can attach to, knowing that that's what they want to do, but it's kind of hard sometimes?
Absolutely. Well, the best analogy that I've found, James, is we're so busy, and specifically with the last 16 months of the pandemic, there's been a blurred line, especially for remote teams, in terms of where is home and where is personal and where is work, because they're constantly on their laptop. And so we don't take time and are probably less well off in many cases in terms of our health. Even though we've had a great deal of time, we've found other things to fill it with other than being healthy. And the best analogy I can think about is if you're not taking care of your body and doing the things to make sure that you are staying healthy, your body at some point is going to shut down and make you take time.
Yeah.
And I think that that's sometimes what we see with teams is if you're not investing time in building that part of your team culture, then ultimately at some point there's going to be something interpersonal that sabotages all the strategy that you've invested so much time and energy and resources in. And for leaders, I think that's one of the biggest shifts that they make in their leadership is so many young leaders, much like myself, went into their role as a team leader and they're absolutely engulfed in ambitious goals, but they focus only on the strategy. And culture will always determine how well strategy is implemented. So if you're not paying attention to culture, if you're not building those relationships and having those one-on-ones and building relationships that are strong enough to withstand the weight of truth and some difficult conversations that every team normally has, then your team at some point down the line is going to suffer because you've not invested in those relationships and connections.
So big picture, climatic scene for these businesses, what are the results of doing that? Like what's the big wins of putting energy in your team?
Well, that depends on perspective. I think that ultimately, if we were honest with ourselves, I think the biggest win is when you wake up and you don't dread going into work because you're having to deal with the 1,000 fires that a lot of times you have to put out because of the interpersonal. And if you focus upon, again, team building, and I'll absolutely, whether it's a keynote or whether it's a half day or full day team building event, those are catalyst experiences. But team building isn't just an activity or just an experience. It's an ongoing intentional commitment that leaders need to make to not just establish, but to maintain and strengthen those relationships, to make sure that you're focused upon clarifying goals and making sure that you engage your team by helping them to connect the dots so they see what they're doing each day and how that ultimately contributes to the results and the mission that the team has and that they feel appreciated for. And a lot of that goes into, again, some of the messages that I've shared with teams, but the idea of building teamwork is really about, establishing goals and establishing relationships and then paying attention to the expectations and the accountability that need to follow.
That's good. So one of the things we like to do is ask a question that gets a little more personal. So if we say, great, this is your why, this is your big why, and I love it. I want to get behind even what you're doing, Sean, personally. But how do you get in the way of doing what you're trying to accomplish?
One word, and that's something that I think that if you are an ambitious leader, you are ultimately always going to be in some capacity guilty of adopting the same issue, and that is ego. I think that my ego absolutely gets in the way because once you find yourself enjoying some success, you don't always remember the system or the process that got you to the success. Right. And you think that you had maybe a little bit more to do with it. And I think ego ends up, as you get older, being a really powerful acronym about edging greatness out. And you're only able to be great if you actually stop thinking about yourself and start thinking, what does the team need? And if you go into each day, whether you're a leader or in any position on a team, if you go into each day and your question isn't, what's going to be convenient for me? If your question is instead, what does the team need today? How can I actually, serve instead of being served? you not only come home happier, which is ultimately what everybody wants is that payoff, but I think that you do absolutely as a leader end up seeing the payoff financially, because positive and productive teams are always more profitable.
That's good. And I can relate to that so much when it comes to even what things that we'll set up tools for our clients to engage in. We'll start thinking about ourselves and how it makes it easy for us, and not necessarily how it makes it easy for them, or something that we're trying to build. And what I love that connected to that was a lot of stuff we do in marketing. When we create words, we say that you're not the hero, your client is. You're just the guide to help them get there. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, we've got to kind of bring ourselves down and be like, how can we raise the other person we're trying to get business from up? Because in return, we're all selfish people. We love to be, it's all about us. Right. So,
and not just, who is the hero, and making sure you take the spotlight off yourself and put it on someone else. Not just who's the hero, but who's the villain that I can help the hero with.
That's
and can
good.
you clarify that villain for your client or your coworker maybe better than they can see it? Because we all have blinders on. And sometimes the best thing we can give to a teammate is a perspective that maybe they're lacking to improve their awareness, and let them know that we are concerned about them. We're thinking about them enough to notice something that maybe is going to be helpful to them. And again, it goes back to, empathy instead of ego.
That's good. So let's then, Sean, what are ways you do that? I know you mentioned conferences, like you come and do keynote speeches. But you have team build, like you'll customize a team building piece as well. So explain the things that you can do for these teams.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking, James. I actually, as you might imagine, the last 12 to 16 months have been a pivot for everyone. So as teams went from in-person to virtual, speakers and coaches and sessions have gone virtual as well. And so, I've been very grateful to have had the mentorship of some people who are a whole lot more technologically gifted than me, who have helped me set up a little virtual studio. And so I've been able to do some virtual keynotes and some virtual events and sessions and workshops with teams to work on trust or building feedback or establishing expectations and norms. Because I think one of the most important things teams can do, and an oftentimes skip step in team building, is not just clarifying the goal, which a lot of people say, we need a mission and vision statement. But not just clarifying that and connecting your people to it, but building those relationships and establishing connections and having the one-on-ones. And even more importantly, with the hybrid teams that we're now seeing, is how do you establish those expectations of how we're going to communicate, and what is that going to look like, and what's going to be our expectation or standard as a team moving forward? Are we going to be using Monday or Slack? Are we going to be using Zoom? Are we going to be shut off and not checking email after 6 p.m.? If I get a text, do I respond with? So setting up some of those expectations really does away with a lot of the miscommunication and frustrations that oftentimes, different types of communication can cause.
Wow. And, you have resources as well, right? I know some things that you can add some value to people today.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I make available at every event that I'd love to be able to share with your audience, James, is as a teammate or as a team leader, if you were to go, obviously my website is greatresultsteambuilding.com. But if you were to go to toolboxstuff.com, toolboxstuff.com takes you directly to a page where you can sign up and get immediate access to over 60 downloadable activities and handouts. It actually gives you the audiobook version of the most recent book, which is The 10 Commandments of Winning Teammates. This is one of the messages that I share on stage. It's obviously kind of based upon the book. And really, what are the traits of a winning teammate that, like we mentioned, is thinking less about me and more about what does the team need.
That's awesome. And we'll put all the links wherever you're listening or watching. It's below. So definitely connect with Sean, see what he's doing, but get those resources, because that's something that I'm going to do right after we get off of this. And
do please take advantage of that and stay in touch. And if I can be a resource for you and your team in any capacity, please know that as James said, that's really become my passion, is to hopefully shorten the learning curve and help people dodge some of the potholes that I stepped in early on.
No, that's good. We just gave you a little taste. So there's a lot more behind what Sean's doing, and go check him out. And Sean, thanks so much for giving us your time today.
Absolutely thrilled to have done it. Thanks so much for having me. Look forward to staying in touch in the future.
Awesome. Well, we close it out with a dance every show. So you ready?
Don't know if I'm ready. Hopefully my wife's not watching. So here we go.
So here we go. Yeah, there we go.
I don't think I even made it to 5 seconds, James.
It's time for the segment Maximizer. We sent our guest a list of growth items to pick from. Let's see what our guest picked this week to maximize on the show. All right, Sean, we're looking at your website and you chose the grunt test, and it's really 3 questions that we like to ask. It's what is it did you actually do? How does it help me? And what action do you want me to take? So what I like when I see your website is it does answer some of those questions for me, but I do have to kind of think a little bit. And what we want to try to do is what I call give it some breathing room, give me some space, and only give me really probably what I care about up front. So my input would be, Sean, is you've got a lot of buttons here with things, ways to share, things to go to social, all these different tabs that I know have incredible content. I've seen some of the pages. You've got some great things to offer, but it can be confusing when you first land on your site. So what I would do is remove anything first that is going to take me away from the site, because we don't want them to leave. We want them to actively be engaged with doing something. So don't put any socials on the top. Put those on the bottom of your website. Those sometimes end up, someone clicks and all of a sudden they're gone from your site, and that they're gone from your big sales letter, right? So gotcha. I would remove those, and then even the share, that can just be distracting. Now, all of these tabs, a lot of people do this, and that's okay. But I think it's even better if we put it in like a hamburger menu off to the right or further down on the site, because again, we don't want them to leave the main homepage right now, because the homepage should be your sales letter. So when answering these questions, what is it that you do? I do get this from engaging conference keynotes and custom team building events. That helps me understand what you do, how it can help me. I do get some of that from, we would call these value propositions. Improve communication, increase morale, inspire performance. So here's what I would suggest. Going to the last piece that I feel is kind of missing. What action do you want me to take? Now, I do know you've got your phone and email and things here, but you're not telling me to do anything. You're just giving me this information. So what is it you want me to do? Maybe your first point of contact is schedule a call. I don't know. Maybe it's that, it's a reach out of some sort. So what I would suggest is you've got Sean Glaze, Aspire Winning Teams. Keep that right there on the top left. I would put a big button on the top right here that says something like schedule a call, something that they're actually going to do to engage with you. I would move everything else out of the way. And in the center, maybe think of a philosophical statement, something that can draw them in. Right off the top of my head, I put, you deserve happy and fulfilled teams. And then put team building conference keynotes and custom team building events. And that's all they need to see. The pictures are great. I love the images. People are engaging. I love the move. That's fine. But what if all you saw was logo, schedule a call, and then some sort of statement and what you do? Because then they're going to probably want to scroll down if that's all that's there. And then give them improved communication, increased morale, inspired performance. Then give them some testimonials. So we can kind of move down the page. And I know I've seen someone who's got some good content on here. You definitely got the authority piece. Some great things already on the site. But I just think from my view of what we see, it's just a lot going on when you first get on the site. And me as a person, unfortunately how it is they give you 5 seconds to answer those 3 questions. So if I'm trying to figure out what you want me to do, I might get some great value and content and walk away, but I don't know that you actually wanted me to schedule a call with you. So a lot of people that we do business with, they say, hey, the phone number is still a big deal. I need a phone number. Great. Put schedule a call button and then put the phone number right below that. And maybe that schedule call button is the form that they fill out or something to interact. But then all the other things, what's surprising, some people are like, well, how are they going to find my blog? And how are they going to find the books and the courses? They will, because they already know that you solved their problem. And they already know that they want to do business with you. They'll keep going. And they'll want to find other information about you. It's that next step, right? It's like, okay, I'm ready to engage. Who is this person, right? So they'll end up looking to get more content because you've already solved their problem. So I would just think of ways that maybe, like I said, give it a little breathing room, give it some space for people not to burn calories trying to figure out what it is that you want them to do. So thanks for letting us look at your website. And I think you're doing a great job already.
All right, as normal, here's another great tip for you in your messaging is really truly understanding what your customers, your clients have tried to do to fix the issue. Really, it kind of boils down to what's at stake. What have they done to try already? What have they already done before you even came along? So, Jake, as it relates to positioning and what's at stake, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think where a lot of people miss is they try and compare themselves to the competitor that they're eyeing across the aisle, if you will. Right? They're hiring those folks instead of us. When that's not what your customer's thinking. Your customer may have tried a competitor, but they're going, I've hired a pro. I've read books on it. I've watched YouTube videos about it. I hit my head against a brick wall. I have, kicked the dog. Oh, you haven't kicked the dog, but
maybe.
What are the things that have realistically they've gone through in this process that you can speak to go, look, we know, we feel it.
Yeah.
We've been there. We've hit our head against the wall a few times. What can we do to help? Because once again, it's kind of like that message match conversation. That if you're speaking to me about something over here and trying to match up with me, I'm not going to hear you. Mm-hmm. But if you hit me here, then I can listen.
Right.
Yeah, and that's just one of 5 questions. And that question there is, how have they tried to fix the issue? That's just one. And 5 questions you can walk through to work on your messaging in your business. It's called the 20-minute messaging makeover. Go download it today and work on your messaging. Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you for joining the Clarity and Purpose Show. Wherever you are watching or listening, make sure you subscribe to the channel or podcast so you don't miss more growth frameworks from cause-driven leaders. We believe when a business leader aligns their team with their message, they become unstoppable.